Provisioning or configuration multiple cameras can be quite a challenge. And the go-to tool that you should use is ADM, the Access Device Manager, or the Access Device Manager Extend. But there may be cases where you cannot use ADM or ADMX, or the things that you need to do when provisioning or multi-configuration these cameras is not supported by ADM. And here I will show you how you can do this in an easy way, scripting with Node-RED. So let's get to it. So let's start with an empty Node-RED. And as you see here, I am running on localhost. And the node that we'll be working with is a subflow that I published as a node that is called node-red-subflow-axis-provisioning. So we need to install this one, and that you go up to Manage Palette and Install and Access. So we can just type here, provisioning. As you see, it's already installed. So the link to this one, where all the documentation to how you set up the configuration, the link is in the description below. So this node has an example that we can import and that we can use as a template to do provisioning. So you go to Import, Examples, and node-red-subflow-axis-provisioning, and import that one, giving us a new tab. So I'll go over these. So there are three parts to this one. One is setting the configuration, and this is a template node where you find all the configurations. So this is the one you edit in the way you want it. As you see here, there are one area called accounts, and you can set 3 device accounts. The first one is what I would call the main account, and this is the user and password that's going to be used when doing all the configuration. If that device is factory default, it will start by initializing that account into those cameras, getting that to one. So my user and password for my camera is not root pass. It's for my demonstration, it is node-red and a really hard password called red node. I'm not going to be setting any other accounts if I leave this empty. So that is not going to be setting that account or that account. Time zone. So you added this to whatever time zone ID that you have where you live. NTP. So you can add 2 NTP servers. And this, as it is this way, it's not going to be setting an NTP, but we could whatever. That's not a valid NTP server, but you get the point. Zip stream with a strength 20, that's medium. The documentation describes the values to the zip stream strength. Minimum FPS 15. TLS connection policy. If you, in this case, I can connect it through HTTP and HTTPS. Text overlays, there are 2 overlays. So this is text overlay 1, and it's going to be top left, white with a black background and font size 48. The second one is not going to be set because the text is not set. So we can go down here and image overlay, which is not going to be set. So if you have an overlay, you need to add the path to that, where that could be images overlay, maybe a BMP or a PNG, whatever. So that needs to be on the local drive. At the bottom right, we can add ONVIF users with the name, password, and privileges. And this is not going to set any ONVIF users. We can configure the MQTT client with the address, user, password, and adding this case publishing. So there is going to be an MQTT published upon object analytics scenario 1, object analytics scenario 2. So whatever ACAP or whatever events you need to change this before to know exactly on which topic filter that event occurs. SSH, I always enable SSH, mainly because my cameras are not operational, daily operation. They are mainly for test and development. So this will enable SSH, but it will not create a user. If I add, in this case, Fred, it will create an SSH user, Fred. Or if you want to disable SSH, that if it was enabled, you put this to false. But I'll leave that one. ACAPs, so this is a list of ACAPs. In this case, the motion guard with a specific version number. And this is the file path to the ARM7HF and the file path to ARC64. So what this will do is install motion guard if it's not already installed. But if the camera has already motion guard installed with this version, it's not going to install it again. So it will check which version is installed in the camera. And then there's always some configurations where the config is not yet supporting. So you can send vapix command. So this is an array of, in this case, 2 vapix commands. One is get and one is a post with a body. So we set that one. So that's a configuration. The second part is your inventory. And this is an array of each object is one camera. So you can have this as a one static inventory list, or you can build this up or just using discovery or importing a CSV with all the cameras. So for this demonstration, I have one camera, so which is 167, and the host name that this is going to be set is going to be demo cam. So now we have the inventory and everything there. The motion guard that we added in the configuration here. Here is an example, in the example, how to download into your local drive and getting the data that needs to be put in there. So if I click here, I'm going to be getting a JSON structure. So this is exactly what you saw up there. So you could just copy this and paste that. And you can use this if you want to pull down other ACAPs just to get them on your local drive. And that's it. So we can initialize the configuration and the inventory. So here is the configuration and here is the inventory of one camera with properties named right there. So these are all stored in the flow config. If we go to the context and look here, we see the configuration in flow object. Now we can proceed with provisioning this. Go back to debug and clearing that. So clicking this will initiate the provisioning. This will just pull out the flow config that I just showed you up to message config, and this is required as an input to the provisioning node. Same thing here, the message inventory, and I'm picking that from the flow inventory. Done. And now we can just click provisioning. And it's going to take some time. We can just change the camera here. We saw, okay, so that's the whole object. We can just, let's do this. Message payload done. We can provision this one more time. So it's just overriding the same values. And clicking there. So as you see here, the 3 outputs. So this one is a status message. So sending out for every camera the serial number and what it did. Serial number and what it did. And then there was the last one. You see if I hover here, you see the red over there, the complete. And there were no errors in this and they would be shown here. So that's a quick way of provisioning 1 or 2 or hundreds of cameras in a very flexible and easy way. Thank you for listening.